I strongly recommend that anybody who hasn't seen it switches on the BBC and watches the incredibly powerful interview between Steve Rosenberg, the hugely charismatic and versatile journalist for the BBC in Russia, interviewing the terrifying Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, a man who eats people for lunch. And the interview ranges across a multitude of topics and celebrates the fact that Lavrov is now in Egypt to drum up support for Russia from African countries and to press the idea that Russia is the friend of Africa and will provide presumably fuel and grain. I was particularly taken by the end of this interview, where Lavrov castigates Britain in particular, and to Steve Rosenberg's question, what is the future of our relationship between Britain and Russia, Lavrov says there isn't any relationship. And he also complains about Johnson and Truss, who want to see Russia capitulate and be defeated. Well, Johnson was right, I think, to support Zelensky. It's the moral and the right thing to do. But Liz Truss has been exposed as inconsequential, as inexperienced, as lightweight, and she can be blown away by a man like Truss. He called her belligerent. He said that she was here but not here. He made further references. He might have been writing her epitaph or ours. And his serenity while he's delivering this indictment is terrifying. We need to be very, very careful what we do now. And electing Liz Truss as the next leader of our country, as the leader of the Conservative Party, would be a great mistake, would be a grave mistake, not least because of her ineptitude, not least because of her... I mean, I keep saying that she doesn't know her geography and she didn't know where Rostov-on-Don is, but she also tried to play chicken with this man. She tried to threaten him, and she is not a threat. Look at her being intimidated by those children in the playground yesterday. She is no threat. She is an invitation to an attack. And I don't want to see our country attacked because we have a very weak and silly leader. I don't want to see our country attacked because we were self-obsessed with who was and who was not at a party. As Lavrov points out, we are not looking at the bigger picture. We're not looking at the global crisis. We are more interested in an election. Maybe all his consonants there are not correct. We are sidetracked by tittle-tattle, whether this is sexual indiscretion or alcoholic nonsense. We have been sidetracked from the real issues, and the real issues are there before us. We've made it worse, I think, with our obsession about getting out of Europe. And as for the Channel ports, as for those long queues in Dover, well, that is the new reality. My partner at the moment has just driven to Turkey and spent an inordinately long time at the border of Serbia. This is the reality. It's nothing that's targeted against us. This is the reality of Fortress Europe. This is what we signed up for. And any nonsense put forward by Boris and his cronies during the referendum debate was nonsense, arrant nonsense. And it's to the shame of Cameron and his groupies that they didn't structure a more coherent and reasonable argument for the Remain camp. There was an argument, and we didn't hear it until the debate was over. The argument was the moral one, that we went to the aid of Europe twice in the last century, and now Europe is in trouble, and believe me, it is in trouble. We're walking away. We cannot hold our head high when we behave like that, and yet we try to. And then we try to hold our head high when we are treating treaties, the 1951 treaty, the Northern Ireland Protocol, with contempt, and we are saying, we're looking at Russia and saying, you're treating international law with contempt. How can we do this when we're about to do exactly the same? It cannot be one rule for them and another rule for us. It has to be one rule, a level playing field. And if we want to queer the pitch, then we, I'm afraid, will have to take the consequences. And our obsession with Boris's behaviour behind closed doors, our obsession with whether he lied to this person or lied to that person, of course he lied. That's in his nature. Why do you complain to a snake that's bitten you, that it's bitten you? You expect a snake to bite you. You expect Boris to lie to you. If you can't take Boris's lies, then you shouldn't have elected him in the first place. That's the reality. Maybe it's an indictment on the entire Conservative Party. But, the reason they got rid of Boris was exactly the reason they put him there in the first place. This is an absurd scenario, and at this time, when we actually need unity internationally, we are fracturing. And Russia is sitting back and laughing at us and trying to work out at what point it can attack us further. It has already attacked us on British soil, and we turned a blind eye. We didn't take the Salisbury attack seriously. We didn't even take the attack with poisoning a cup of tea earlier seriously. We've let an aggressive bully boy Russia go ahead with its aggression, and then suddenly we think now comes a day when we are going to stand up to him, and we produce Liz Truss to do that. There is only one thing that is laughable in this scenario, and that is us. And we need to find a way. We need to find a way to turn this round, and I don't think putting Liz Truss into number 10 is the solution. I'm not even sure that putting Rishi Sunak into number 10 is the solution, but it might be a better solution than Liz Truss.